Boom! It is Seplos time once again. I'm not really in the mood to work on this battery room at the moment here, doing renovations and upgrades, and so I thought we are mixing things up a little bit and we talk about the newest development of the Seplos version 3 BMS here in these Polo batteries. We want to find out what has changed and is it working now? Is the BMS actually showing 100% state of charge once the battery is fully charged? Because this was always a bit of a concern with these BMSs here, and this function never actually worked until you hit 3.65 volts or whatever you have set as an overvoltage protection in the BMS, and then the BMS showed 100% state of charge, which is of course totally wrong, because if you have only one cell peaking to 3.65 volts and all the other cells are still at, say, 95% state of charge, why would you set the BMS to 100%, right? Only one cell at 3.65 volts doesn't mean the battery is on 100% state of charge. So I never understood why this is actually implemented as an algorithm in these BMSs, and in many other BMSs as well, to be honest. First of all, welcome back to the off-grid garage here in... It is a bit cloudy today, but it's fine. The sun is coming and going, and we had like 260 amps outside this morning already. And look at this, totally crazy. We are on 55% only. The battery was down to like 32 or something. Yeah, the wife is driving a lot with her car at the moment and charging and charging and charging. So I really took the restriction out and charged the battery shelf as fast as possible in these cloudy conditions. I'm still having plenty of energy. So let's have a look in the changelog of the Seplos BMS version 3. And this is actually the brand new firmware version 1.4 it shows later in the BMS. And as always, you can download this software from my website as well as from the Seplos website directly, but you need to have an account with them, so you need to register with your email address and all this kind of stuff. I linked both of these possibilities down under the video. So we're getting three different firmware versions with this BMS here. One is for the 100 amp BMS, which we have here, and there's only one file in there. And the 200 amp BMS comes in two versions, version 10 and version 11, right? There's also a document how you can find out if you have version 10 or 11 of the hardware. This is also linked down below. And there's a warning TXT, which says do not ever update this firmware on your BMS 2.0, so the older... I mean, it should not work anyway, right? It's a completely different hardware. Maybe it actually works and destroys the BMS, but from a technical perspective, it should not work. The software used to upgrade the BMS should actually say this firmware is not compatible with your kind of BMS you have. And then we have this update description TXT file, and this is basically the changelog from the last one. Unfortunately, Seplos doesn't do any history in here, so we don't know what the actual version number is. It is just a text document. And it says the communication protocol name pylon changed to pylon, all in capitals now. All right. Newly added TBB communication protocol. I believe this is maybe an inverter brand. Don't know. And important thing number 3. The battery state of charge setting strategy has been optimized. Yay. The specific strategy is as follows. And then we've got 3 different options how to reset the BMS to 100% state of charge. So first one, standby mode. So why does it say standby mode here? The BMS needs to be in standby mode for this, right? So no charge going in, no charge going out. The voltage is equal or higher than 3.45 volts times the number of cells. Battery voltage needs to be higher than 55.2 volts. This lasts for 15 minutes. The BMS will then reset to 100%. So you need to be over 3.45 volts for 15 minutes. It will reset to 100%. Second possibility to do that is charging current smaller than 3 amps. The battery voltage is again equal or larger than 55.2 volts. This lasts for 30 minutes and then it resets the BMS to 100% as well. And I'm not 100% sure what number 3 means here. The charging status has not reached the high voltage warning or the total high voltage warning. State of charge is larger or equal 98.5%. Is this a condition for the 1 and 2 as well? So state of charge needs to be over 98.5%. And we haven't hit any cell or battery warning. So I'm not quite sure what this means here, but I can tell you something else. Back in the day, on the 21st of June 2024, so this is like this is exactly 7 months ago, I had a discussion with the engineers from Seplos about exactly these features they have published in the new firmware last month. Because these features were supposed to be implemented already in the last firmware version, and I've tested them back in the day for Seplos, and they actually didn't work. Here you can see here the screenshots from the Venus OS. And we had issues like the battery showed already 100% state of charge, even the voltage was at 53.3 volts only. And once the BMS clicked to 100% state of charge, it also turned off the inverter. So it didn't deliver any available solar power to the load anymore. It completely shut down and started discharging the battery until it was at 99.9%. And then the charger kicked back in and recharged the battery to 100% again. So it was always doing this microcycling between 99.9% to 100% state of charge. And then I had the battery on 56 volts on standby mode for several hours, and it didn't reset to 100% state of charge. So there were all kind of issues with the software, and Seplos actually requested the BMS history. I downloaded here and sent it to them, and they wanted to get back to me and tell me what is actually going on, and they never did. And this was basically the last conversation we had. And I also suggested to them, why is the battery actually staying on 55.2 volts if this is your requested charge voltage after the battery has fully charged? Is there not a setting in there where we can reduce the voltage to a float voltage, for example? And they actually confirmed that several customers of them have requested that. And they were trying to convince all the engineer team, the R&D development team and everything to implement this into a new firmware. And I said, hey, great, if you can do that, that would be amazing. You know, we don't want to keep the battery on 56 volts for the rest of the day for hours and hours and hours for no particular reason. It only stresses the battery. We can safely reduce the battery voltage to 53.6 volts. And it is still on 99.9% state of charge then, but on a safe and relaxing voltage. Yeah, I made 107 videos about this here on the channel. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back in time, watch all these videos. We figured this out in all details here on the channel. So anyway, finally, we've got the new firmware 1.4, and it has exactly these features we have discussed like 7 months ago with the Seplos team. So finally, it's an official firmware. They have optimized the algorithm. Well, last night I was actually updating all these 3 BMSs to the new version, so I could make this video today, and something happened. Here, as always, I plugged in the network cable to one of the RS485 ports, number 1. Yeah, this is for the middle battery now. The other end plugs into the Seplos RS485 adapter to USB. We start the Seplos BMS Studio, click on Online Upgrade, Start Upgrade Software. We say COM5 here in my case, open the channel, browse to the file. See, this is the latest version from shortly before Christmas. This is the 100 amp version. Select the file, click on download, and now it starts flashing the firmware. Yeah, nothing special, we've done it 100 times here. One of the BMSs actually stopped at around 12-13%. Yeah, and it does this animation here while updating now. And there we go, we got a confirmation, everything has worked out, and then the BMS sometimes turns off, or it takes a moment to turn off actually. Yeah, see, now it is turned off. It shuts itself down, and you need to press the pin on the back to turn it back on. This one worked as well, just fine. This one didn't. So let me get a screwdriver here in the top one and turn it back on, and you will see what happens when I turn it on. It still plays the animation of the firmware upgrade. This one actually never upgraded. It went only to 12-13% or so progress, and then it stopped for some reason. It's a bit strange, right? Because I have upgraded these BMSs here a few times and there was never an issue. So, okay, we go back to a system monitor, we go to COM5 here, we come to start. This is the middle battery. The other one is still doing this animation thing. We need to turn it on. I just said it. It turns off after a firmware upgrade. Alright, cancel and start communicating, and it connects straight away. And here in the bottom right hand corner you can see firmware version 1.4. Yeah. And if we have a look at the parameter management, go to read all from the BMS into the computer software and go all the way down here, we still have the 104 parameters. So nothing has changed there from the previous version. There's no additional parameter or something for float mode or any other settings. They only changed the calculation to reset the BMS to 100% state of charge. So this one claims it is on 96.5% already. Let's hook up this battery to the solar and charge it a moment and see if this new algorithm actually works and the battery resets to 100% state of charge. And this one does still the animation and shows also 0 volts, 0 amps, 0%. And when I go to capacity, for example, it also shows 0 ampere hours. So the BMS is somehow pricked or so. I probably need to open the case here and pull out all the cables, do a full reset and hope for the best that it actually works afterwards and I can reflash it again and see what's going on. Otherwise I have to contact Seplos and ask for help, because these BMSs don't have a force update function, right? Unfortunately not. No. Alright, I have now connected the Polo batteries here to the Powerwall 2.0, and we only want to connect this one BMS here to test out this functionality of resetting to 100%. And we want to go to other settings, pylon can. It sits on pylon can, so we need to log in. Password is 6 times 0, I believe. Yes, it is. Okay, let's change this one here to Victron can. So this battery is also connected via CAN communication to the Victron system now. And if we have a look here at the SPAT calibration center, we can see also the 96% state of charge, 53.21 volts. This is basically everything we see here as well. So this is already connected. We go in here. It stays JK inverter BMS, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Have a quick look at the details here. Pack 1, all the temperatures, one is online. Does it report the right? Yep, 100 ampere hours are available. No alarms. And parameters are 55.2 and 50 amps charging, 50 amps discharging. Let's confirm this quickly here. We go back into the software, parameter settings. All the way down, we can see here, charge request voltage. There we go. 55.2 volts. Charge current 50 amps and discharge current negative 50 amps. So exactly what we request here from the BMS is also showing here in the Victron system. So communication is established. Wonderful. Okay, let me turn on the solar charge controller for the Powerwall 2.0 and then we charge this battery to 100%. Shouldn't take long, and see if it actually resets to... So, checking on the other parameters quickly here, battery high voltage alarm is at 57.4 volts. So we cannot reach that, otherwise the reset would not work as per this text document. High voltage alarm is at 3.55 volts. Geez, there are so many parameters in here, which is good, but also bad. Here, equalization, open voltage is at 3.45 volts. Okay, we just have to wait now until the battery is fully charged and then I'll be back and we have a look if it all works. So while we are waiting for the battery to charge, I want to show you some of the discussions we had like 7 months ago with Seplos. So I said here, I had the battery sitting on 56 volts for 2 to 3 hours, but had frequent very small charge and discharges depending on the load and sun. The BMS never got to show 100%. Yeah, and this is what you have. If you have reached your requested charge voltage of your battery and the current goes basically to 0, yeah, and you have load and solar connected, there's always a bit of current going in and out of the battery, yeah, 1 amp, 2 amps in, then it discharges the battery again. So it always hovers around this point you have set. And Seplos said, give the battery a charge current of less than 3 amps and keep the voltage at 55.55 to 56 volts. Continue for 30 minutes. during which the battery cannot enter standby mode or discharge mode. In this way, the second condition will be met and state of charge will reach 100% state of charge. Yeah, and this is exactly what they have implemented now here. Charge current smaller than 3 amps, voltage is higher than 3.45 volts, and lasts for 30 minutes. And back then I told them at this voltage the battery is already fully absorbed and won't take current anymore for 30 minutes. The current tapers off to 0 within 10 minutes and then the BMS goes to standby mode. But even here the 15 minutes don't trigger the BMS, as there is a frequent small charge and discharge due to load changes. What I just explained. And I think they have changed this up a little bit, because now it says charging current under 3 amps, voltage over 55.2 volts for 30 minutes. It doesn't have this window anymore between 55.55 and 56 volts. Very small voltage window, and to keep the battery between 55.55 and 56 volts, but still charging 3 amps into this battery, this will just not work. Yeah. The voltage will rise over 56 volts now, and then we are outside of this window. And I think they have, and they probably have realized this with testing and said, okay, we just need to be over 55.2 volts, regardless what the voltage is afterwards, but you need to charge with less than 3 amps into the battery for 30 minutes. And I don't quite understand the logic behind this, why the BMS is then resetting to 100% state of charge. What does it mean if we charge for half an hour with less than 3 amps above 55.2 volts? Does that mean the battery is full, or do we have clouds and we are charging very slowly anyway? So it's very difficult to understand what the logic behind is. They never explained why they think the battery is on 100% state of charge at this point of time. And the first one here is on standby mode. That means there cannot be any charge or discharge current at all. If we go back into the software here, yeah, charge, see, it says charge now, we are charging with 3.7 volts. If I turn off the charger just for a second, just flick the circuit breaker of the solar, you can see 0 amps now, and now we are on standby mode. Yeah, but as soon as we charge with more than 0.3 amps or discharge with more than 0.3 amps, we are not in standby mode anymore. And this is one of the requirements for this case number 1 here. We need to be in standby mode for 15 minutes. So there can be no charge or discharge going into the battery anymore. Again, it's a very narrow window you have to actually hit to reset to 100% state of charge. But we will see. Let's turn on the solar again and charge this battery. Okay, takes a moment and then we should charge again. But as you can see, we had this discussion already with Seplos 7 months ago, and I was expressing my concerns about these 2 conditions to reset the BMS to 100%. So, but let's charge the battery now and see if it actually works. Oh, the sun just came out. 13.8 from the MPPTs, 1.8 from the tilt system, 186 amps outside. Welcome to sunny hot Australia. And I'm also watching the lawnmower doing its job. Okay, we are now at 55 volts. We are charging the battery with 10 amps. There's no balancing happening at the moment, but this should kick in a second. There we go. First battery, cell number 7. And this is still a passive balancer here, 200 milliamps, I believe, 250. So balancing is very, very slow and inefficient here with these BMSs. The battery voltage is now at 55.25 volts. Slowly going down. We can see the current is actually ramping down already, so the batteries must be fully absorbed. But we are neither meeting case number 1 because we are still charging, we are not on standby, nor do we meet case number 2 because the charge current is still over 3 amps. So now we are under 3 amps charging current. We are charging still, and now we are at 12:11. So 30 minutes from now, we are resetting to 100%. But we need to stay on charge. We cannot go on standby and we cannot discharge the battery. And this is what I said to them. This is not going to happen. We are not sustaining these 2.2 amps into this battery now for half an hour. Yeah, there will be a standby or a discharge. Even if I turn on the load now, it will discharge the battery for a second. And this always resets your timer then, and the 30 minutes start again. So it makes it even harder. Yeah, so you can see the current is tapering off. We've got full sun outside, but the current is going down. And look at the current, 0.7 amps after 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We are almost at 0.5 amps, which is the threshold for this BMS, I believe. So if it goes to 0, we will see a standby here, and then the timer resets to 30 minutes again. It will never charge for half an hour in these conditions. The battery will be fully 100% absorbed before that. And now we are not meeting the conditions anymore. We are under 55.2 volts. Yeah. So the timer has now already reset to 30 minutes again. So from what I can see here, nothing has really changed. And even if we leave this now connected here for the rest of the day, we will not see a 100% state of charge here. We will try, we will do this right now. We will see if there is a reset coming in the next 1-2 hours or so, but I don't believe there is one. Because it is impossible to meet either condition 1 or condition 2. Seplos. So I'm just having a look at the BMS comparison spreadsheet I have made. Indication 0.4 BMS current sensitivity is a 0.4 amps for this BMS. Okay, so if the current goes under 0.4, we are going into standby mode. Okay, 0.40. There we go. Standby mode. So officially we are not charging anymore. So this would actually meet condition number 1 now, but we are not at 55.2 volts. The voltage is just 10 or 20 millivolt lower than the requested charge voltage. So neither condition 1 nor condition 2 is actually met now, and none of the timers is running, so the BMS will not reset to 100%. We had a single voltage for requesting charge voltage and also reset the BMS to 100%. And it never worked, because if you have a load connected to your battery and your inverter, the voltage and current is always going up and down slightly a bit. You turn on your toaster, you turn on your kettle, you plug in your vehicle, the sun comes out, a cloud comes. There's always a bit of change in voltage and current. We will never be on 55.2 volts at a constant voltage. Never. And again, this shows only how far ahead JK is with their inverter BMS and the software. I think this software is just not fit for the market anymore. This is like a year, at least maybe 2 years even, behind the development what JK already went through. It is nice to have all these parameters here, and it is also nice that they have now implemented a CVL, a CCL and a DCL, what we can see here in the Victron system. And this all works fine, but there's no float voltage, there's no float timer. The reset to 100% still does not work because these conditions are never met. And I'm really tired to go through all these discussions with every single BMS manufacturer again and again. Yeah, it is Seplos, it is Pace, it is Dali, it is 100 Balance, it is JBD. They all are far behind with their software in comparison to the G-Kong, the JK BMS. And yes, very good question. If we have a look here in the Victron system under DVCC, I have actually turned on SVS, the shared voltage sense. That means the solar charge controller measures the battery voltage, yeah, but the charge controller is far away from the battery, so it doesn't actually know what the voltage drop is and everything else. What is the real battery voltage? So with this one turned on, it doesn't matter what voltage the solar charge controller measures. It uses the voltage the BMS tells it. Yeah, we can see that here. Yeah, battery tells the solar charge controller, hey, I'm on 55.19 volts. Sometimes it pops up 55.2, and we are still charging with 0.2 amps into this battery. But the BMS does not measure this anymore. But this 0.1, 0.2 amps we see going into the battery is probably what's being used by this passive balancer. It discharges single cells with 0.2 amps, and this is what the solar charge controller just replenishes the battery with. And here, for example, there's no separate parameter in the Seplos BMS where we can set, okay, this is my state of charge 100% reset voltage, and this is my requested charge voltage, like in the JK BMS. Yeah? But why is there not a separate parameter we can set and say, okay, at 55.1 volts, for example, we want to reset the state of charge to 100%, because this is very close to 55.2 anyway, and the battery is fully charged then. And again, then what? What is now happening? The solar charge controllers keep the battery on 55.2 volts for the next 6 or 7 hours until the sun goes down. Is that necessary? Absolutely not. As I said before, this should now reduce the voltage to 53.6 volts and float the battery on a safe voltage level for the rest of the day. But in the Seplos system, even we have these 104 wonderful parameters here, there's no option for that. Yeah, it uses one parameter, which is the charging request voltage, 55.2 volts for both. Alright my friends, I think leave this running here for an hour, 2 hours or something, and we will see if anything happens, but I doubt anything has changed with their charging algorithm, and the BMS is still not able to reset to 100% in a controlled and sensible way. Alright, see you after lunch. So, and it is now close to 1.5, almost 2 hours now, and nothing has changed. So we are not triggering the 100% state of charge with any of these two described cases here. So unfortunately, this optimized charge strategy does not work. And I guess they tested this in a controlled laboratory environment. So if I connect the power supply to this battery now and keep it at 55.2 volts constantly at the standby mode here, I'm sure we will see a 100% reset after 15 minutes then. But this is not the reality. Once the BMS is installed in the battery and connected to solar and load, the voltage is not constant at 55.2 volts. And neither the current is at 0. Let's give this a try. So I've now connected the power supply here with 55.28 volts. That is the closest I can set it to. For some reason these PODIs here, they need replacement. They are so... Yeah, 55.24. Okay, let's connect it. And we are charging with 0.5 amps. So the BMS actually shows 55.3 volts now, but no current going into the battery. At least the BMS doesn't measure it. But we are still charging with 340 milliamps into this battery, and we have now exactly 2 p.m. We are on standby mode for 15 minutes and the voltage is above 55.2 volts. This should meet requirement number 1 and we should see 100% state of charge. But this is not real world conditions, obviously. Okay, it is now 13 minutes past 2, so we should see the reset in about 1 or 2 minutes. 14 past, 15 past, 16 past, 17 past, 18 past, 19 past, and we have now reached 2:20 p.m. so far over 15 minutes since we hit the 55.2 volts and have entered standby mode. So there was no charge, no discharge, nothing, but the BMS does not reset to 100%. Both of these conditions here are not working. I've shown you condition 2 and we cannot satisfy this either because the current cannot be under 3 amps for half an hour. The battery is already fully absorbed at 55.5 volts. It does not sustain 3 amps for half an hour. So neither of these two conditions actually trigger the 100% state of charge, and nothing has changed to the old software version 1.3. And I'm really glad I've got all this conversation here with the Seplos engineer in my WhatsApp. So last night, before I did the upgrade to the BMSs, I had a look through the chat just to remember all the details we have discussed, and exactly that here is the same outcome as I have shown them before. But then at some random stage it resets to 100% when you are at 53 point something volts. all of a sudden it resets to 100% because some weird mechanic is matching and the algorithm thinks the battery is fully charged and shows 100% state of charge. Well, anyway, it is what it is. And I don't quite understand why this is happening. You know, Seplos is on the market for a long time. They should know how to charge and discharge lithium iron phosphate batteries. They don't get the mechanics right in their BMSs to show the right numbers and control the inverter in a way that it is usable to lithium iron phosphate batteries. And as I said before, I'm really tired to talk about this basic stuff with companies who are producing these BMSs for years, for a long time. Dali on the market for 10 years plus. JBD on the market. Pace BMS, industrial standard BMSs. They cannot control the inverter in an optimal way to charge and discharge these batteries. They are all fantastic BMSs from a hardware perspective, but they need to catch up on software. And so far, only G-Kong has understood what a BMS needs to do. If you connect your inverter to a BMS, the BMS needs to tell the inverter what to do. And that's why it is important that the BMS has functionality like bulk, absorption, float, timers. Because if we have communication, the inverter is dumb. It only does what the BMS is telling it. And like here with Seplos, if the BMS tells the inverter charge to 55.2 volts, it does it. It charges to 55.2 and then holds the voltage for the rest of the day. But this is just not how you charge lithium iron phosphate batteries. And I've got 3 brand new 250 amp Dali BMSs here, never used. Hardware is okay, software is garbage. Yeah, the BMS only resets to 100% if we hit 3.65 volts. This is technology from the 70s, guys. I also have 2 300 BMSs here from a company called JBD. And they are actually claiming they are the real JBD. So everything we know about JBD so far, the Jabata, I call it, this is apparently fake. And they are the only and true JBD company. I've got 2 BMSs from them here, which we will test on the channel here soon. 300 amps and a 3 amp active balancer included. Yep, JBD. Not these ones, these ones. Never heard of them before. If it's a scam or not, I don't know. Pace BMS. I have contacted Pace and offered to work with the engineers together to improve the software. It's a fantastic BMS. Okay, it lacks the active balancer, but still all the settings are there. It is easy to set up. Hardware is robust. Never heard back from them. And they do the same as Seplos. They charge to 55.2 volts or whatever you set and keep the voltage forever there. Is that right? I don't think so. Yeah, Seplos, I don't know what you have done with this software update here, but none of these possibilities, these trigger mechanisms you have put in, these optimized state of charge setting strategies are actually working. Not even with a power supply and nothing else connected. This is why I work so close with G-Kong together, because they are the only company which have actually understood how the software should work. Even it is not perfect yet, but look at all these functions and features and how it drives your inverter. And then compare this to other BMSs. They are years behind, years. And then we had this discussion here with Seplos 7 months ago, exactly about these 2 features. And it takes them this long just to come out with the same again. Alright, now the only question is how do we fix this BMS here in the top air. Let me remove the top lid here for a moment and unplug the BMS and see if we can actually recover it. Shouldn't take long. Oh shit, I have to remove all these screws here. That's the cable from the fire extinguisher. Alright, there's the good old Seplos BMS version 3. So I'm just going to pull all the balance cables and this should hopefully do the trick. I'm not sure if there's actually a positive. Oh yeah, here there is. There is a positive cable connected as well. Pull the balance cables first. Alright, and then this one goes all the way to the positive bus bar there. Yep. Oh shit! The nut is gone. I can still see it there. Okay, let's see. Alright, positive is gone as well. Leave this off for a moment and I'll try to recover this nut. Alright, let's put this positive cable back on the positive terminal. There's a washer and a spring washer and the nut I could recover. Alright, everything is back connected. Let's press the button, turn it back on and hope for the best. You will see it first. How does it look like? Oh shit! It is still doing this update thingy whatever stuff here. Damn it! No, I can't turn it off anymore. If I press the button again, if I hold it, nah, it's not doing it. Okay, I have to wait 10-15 minutes or so and then it stops automatically. I don't know, I have to contact Seplos and ask them for advice. Alright my friends, I think so far this video today about the new firmware version for the Seplos BMS version 3. As we have seen, it is still not working, it is still doing exactly the same as before with the old version. There's no progress at all, which is a total shame because I really like the Seplos BMSs. They are robust, industrialized, inverter BMSs. They have a lot of settings available to really fine-tune the BMS to your system. But if the software is so far behind here, well, what can we do, right? What can we do? Guys, thank you so much for 103,602 subscribers here on the channel. Thank you very much. That is very good support. Also, thank you very much to the donors who are buying me a beer from time to time. You know, right? And thank you as well for all the comments, sharing, liking, and everything else you're doing to support the channel. Thank you so much. Yeah, guys, until the next video when we do something probably different than Seplos BMSs. Until then, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. See you then. Bye bye.